So many authoritative carnivores will say that since carbs are not essential, we should not be eating them. But in today's video, I'm going to explain why that claim is extremely stupid and why carbohydrates are essential for living a primal life. So, let's get into it. First, carnivores are correct. There is no requirement for dietary carbohydrates in the human body. That is completely true. But how does our body get sugar then? Because our body still needs sugar to survive. Well, we have a process called gluconeogenesis, and that is basically when we produce sugar from other substrates like protein, tissues, cells, other things like that. But I'm going to talk about more of that later. But overall, yes, carnivores are right. We do not need dietary carbohydrates to survive. We have gluconeogenesis. But this argument is extremely stupid to bring up because saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and cholesterol are all not essential to the human body. Yet, we all know these are vital for us to survive. If you don't know, saturated fat can actually be produced from dietary carbs from a process called de novo liponeogenesis. So carnivores will basically say that since carbs are essential, we shouldn't eat them, yet saturated fat, which is the most thing they eat, isn't essential either. So the argument completely destroys itself. And if you wanted to base your diet off of what is essential, you would have this: 13 grams of amino acids and 1 gram of omega-3/6s. This was proven from the Burr Brothers study where they figured out what rats needed to survive and the only things that were actually essential for them. But obviously, this is just a ridiculous diet. Again, the argument destroys itself. No one would just live off of 13 grams of protein and 1 gram of omega-3/6s. It's an insanely stupid diet. And this is exactly why vegans make the claim that saturated fat isn't essential, so we shouldn't be consuming it. And then carnivores make the claim that carbs aren't essential, so we shouldn't be consuming it either. But both of them are just stupid arguments. We shouldn't be looking at what's essential. We should be looking at what we need to thrive. Thriving is our main priority, not looking at what's essential. So now I want to get into gluconeogenesis because many carnivores say it's way too efficient for us to even need dietary carbohydrates in the diet. They say since gluconeogenesis is so efficient, we don't need carbs whatsoever. And if you don't know what gluconeogenesis is, it's a process of breaking down muscle, tissue, fat, cells, and more to create glucose for the body. And this is done primarily in the liver. But I want to show you why this process is extremely stressful and why we should try and eliminate it as much as possible. Because first, gluconeogenesis cannot be activated without stress hormones. That has been proven time and time again. Hormones like cortisol and glucagon need to be released in the bloodstream via the HPA axis to actually start gluconeogenesis in the liver. And if you don't know what the HPA axis is, it's basically a signal in your brain to release these stress hormones into the bloodstream. And then adrenaline is released too over long periods of time of gluconeogenesis. And obviously, releasing these stress hormones into the bloodstream constantly would do a number of bad things for our body. I'm going to be talking more on that later. Next, I want to bring up the fact that we don't want to break down our muscle, tissue, fats, and cells just to create glucose. This process is very stressful and dumb if you think about it. We want to use other nutrients for other functions in our body. And also, we don't want to break down proteins to convert it into glucose because then we're going to be left with more of a demand for protein. And if we overconsume protein because of this, we will try to convert it to energy, which is extremely stressful. Our body hates trying to convert protein into energy. Next, you're going to be creating more oxidative stress because an increased stress metabolism can increase reactive oxygen species. In moderation, these reactive oxygen species are fine, but when overdone in long periods of time of gluconeogenesis, they can be extremely harmful to lipids, cells, and other functions in our body. And next, to circle back to those stress hormones, a major one that is released when we try to activate gluconeogenesis is glucagon. And this is the main stress hormone that will reduce the conversion of T4 to active T3. And this will reduce our metabolic rate, which is our energy state, leading to lower energy, cellular production, and other important things in the body. But why does our body do this? Well, it thinks we're in survival mode. It thinks we're in starvation mode. We're depriving ourselves of carbs, so our body is like, oh, we're starving. It has the same exact signal. So what does your body do when it's starving? It wants to activate the long-term storage, which is fat. We don't want to be burning fat, but it has to do that when we're starving. This is good to survive famines. We can last up to 30 to 60 days without food because of this when we have a lot of fat in our body. But it's not good to just survive all the time. We want to thrive. And again, because we're surviving, our body is going to lower its metabolic rate because we don't want to be using up so much energy when we're starving. But again, we don't want to survive. We want to thrive. We want to be in a high energy state when we're producing a lot of ATP. We don't want to be in a low metabolic state. So this is exactly what happens when we try to primarily burn fat for energy, except for carbs. Our body lowers its metabolic rate because it thinks it's in a survival mode. This lowers the energy production of many parts of our body. So let's go over everything. First, carbs aren't essential, but that doesn't really matter because saturated fat isn't essential either, yet it's super beneficial. Second, gluconeogenesis is extremely stressful. We know that cortisol, glucagon, and even adrenaline impair metabolic health over time, leading to lower energy. And third, when we rely on fat for energy, we're basically in a starvation mode that lowers our energy, metabolic rate, and impairs many productions in our body. So next time a carnivore tells you not to eat fruit because it's not primal or it's not essential, do not listen to them. Many primal tribes will try to eat as much sugar as possible. They'll literally go to beehives and get bit by bees while eating honey. They don't care. The sugar tastes that good. And that is because sugar is essential for our health. It doesn't matter if it's not essential for our consumption, it's essential for our health and to thrive. So I hope you liked this video. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in another one.